Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 244. How you folks doing? Thanks so much for dropping by. I'm grateful. This past week, I appreciate talking to a number of you, Tim. It was a great conversation. Thanks ever so much. You brighten up my day. I hope I'm helping you folks out, and I really appreciate your taking the time to drop by, give what I have to say a little listen. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford's Camera, bedfords.com. They still got some amazing sales going on. Make sure you put in that old MOOSE discount, whether you're talking to them in the store or on the website. Get extra savings on that sale. You're going to save yourself some serious cash. Besides the fact, no sales tax for most states and free shipping for orders over $99. And they've got Photocon coming up this fall. Make sure you check it out at their website. All their great sales, all their products, great people. Bedfords.com. Thank you guys for sponsoring the Moose Podcast. Well, let's get right into this week's episode. The best lens ever is... Well, I'm not going to just answer right away because... Why would you stick around for 15 minutes or 20 minutes? Actually, I have a couple of things I want to say before I get to answering that question. A little over 2 weeks ago, I posted a video. Now, I'm doing more videos. I'm trying to, because so many questions are piling up and trying to answer them all as efficiently, effectively, and honestly as possible. I think it's a little bit easier for me personally to do it as a video. And then with that ability to talk longer and share things, I think the answer is a little bit more complete, and you can decide if that answer works for you or doesn't. And that video I posted was the common question, what's the best wildlife photography lens, specifically for birds? And as I said in that video, right now at this moment, it's the 500 PF. And I think that little very important note got lost. So the best lens ever is, well, when I posted that video, a lot of people had a lot of thoughts about, as you can imagine, coming from the glorious web, the best bird photography lens. And everybody had their 2 cents worth, which is fine. Not that I really cared, because I already know the answer for myself. And you're not going to really convince me otherwise. But a lot of people had to put their 2 cents in. And one of the comments was, the best lens is the one you can afford. Yes and no. I've mentioned it a couple times lately. It's still kind of stuck in my craw for a couple reasons. And in this week's case, the best lens you can afford, there's a caveat there in that very sentence, isn't there? Not the best lens you can afford. So that right off the bat, just because you can afford it, doesn't make it the best lens. And that's what we're talking about. What's the best lens ever, right? I mean, if it's only that you can afford, that doesn't make it the best lens. How about looking at the qualifiers of all those different line resolution tests that people do, organizations do, for a lens? Does that make it the best lens ever? Since I don't shoot resolution targets as a subject, to me, they're irrelevant. They don't make a difference. Real life shooting really makes a big difference. Now, in the summing up the best lens ever, is it just sharpness? Or is it, as a lot of people confuse, focusing speed? Because focusing speed doesn't come from the lens, from current lenses. It might from old lenses that had a motor in the lens that drove the lenses, the elements around. Those are kind of long gone. So it's not really the lens that's giving you focusing speed. It's the body. What else goes in the criteria of what is the best lens ever? Price? Ooh. You talk about sharpness, you talk about price, and that's when all of a sudden the wars start to kick in. it's just the way of the world. And I wish I could go down to my basement and fix it. But some of the best glass is some of the most expensive glass. Why is that? Most of the time, as far as I know, it comes from R&D. That price is not just the manufacturer of that lens. They got to pay for the ideas, the prototypes, if they do such things, all the computers that generate the formulas, all that R&D, they got to recoup that somewhere, right? And then they have to make money on top of all that. And that's just kind of basic business. So some of the most expensive lenses, I think, are not just because of what people think of as just the manufacturer, but it's all the R&D went into that particular lens to make it gee whiz bang. So the best lens ever is it focus? Is it price? What is it? Well, one category we should talk about is you, right? I think you are a big part of what is the best lens ever. You, the photographer. There are a lot of different size lenses, both focal length and physical length. As you get to a shorter focal length, wide angle, you tend to get one that is physically smaller in length. As you get to a longer focal length, you get one that's physically longer. Back in the day, a 400 millimeter lens was physically 400 millimeters long. It's because they didn't realize or didn't know or couldn't afford or a combination thereof how to make the elements to make internal focusing and everything else that goes into these smaller lenses that are long focal lengths that we enjoy today, 500 PF being a great example. To get to my point, when you get to a wide angle lens and you get that small physical size, a couple of things happens. First and foremost is you have so much information in that viewfinder that you have to work really hard to not see something look sharp, not necessarily tack sharp, to look something sharp. Next, because it's not sticking way out from the camera body, physically holding it, getting a sharp image, or putting it on a tripod and getting a sharp image is basically a slam dunk. So those lenses, by their very nature, tend to appear to be much sharper to most photographers, and I'm generalizing here, than if you were to switch it and go to a longer lens that has a much narrower angle of view, and physically the lens sticks out from the body much further, making that front element harder to hold in one place to get that sharp image. Now, when it comes to the best lens ever, we have to think about, we're talking about wide angles or telephotos. Don't think it's fair to either side of that equation to compare each other. Wide angles have flare problems. Telephotos tend not to. Telephotos tend to take very little movement to show everything out of focus. Wide angles, not so much. So there's a lot of things that have to go into this criteria. And getting back to you, what is your style of photography? What's your genre of photography? And what the story you want to tell from your photography also go into the best lens ever. Now, I'm going to talk about myself, and to be honest with you, I only answer the question, the best lens ever is, for myself, because we are so different in all the things I've mentioned and so much more. I've mentioned many, many times that I started off with the Nikkor 400-5.6 EDIF lens. It's a small little lens. It's just a little tube, 400 millimeters, just real easy for lens designers to make just spectacular. I bought it used. That's all I could afford at the time. But that lens, for all those years, was the best lens ever. Not only because of the results that it captured, the sharpness, but because that lens taught me so much about myself and about photography that it went way beyond price tag or sharpness or usability or any other of those factors. It was what it taught me about wildlife photography, about Moose Peterson photography, about Nikon photography, about everything photography, color and light. All those things are so essential that I still depend on today. I learned from that one lens. So it'd be really easy for me to say that's the best lens ever. The thing is, and as I mentioned in that 500 PF video, that measuring stick is good today only, because tomorrow it could change. Nikon had a 55-35 macro. We're going back a way long time ago. With an M2 that would give you 1-to-1. And that lens was everybody's favorite. Then they came out with a 55-28 macro that would go 1-to-1 without an extension tube or that M tube. People love that. And then Nikon has been going back and forth with different macros ever since. I mean, I just swear by the 70-180 macro. And there's the 200 macro. Great lens. I love that lens. There's the 60-2.8 macro. There's been a few versions. I really love the current one. It's small, itty bitty. And now we have the new Z macros. And the 105 is just blistering, I'm told. And what I'm seeing as results are remarkable. Now, any one of those macros you could say was the best lens ever at the moment it came out. Might not be the case today. That does not mean if you do not, if you have that lens and that's all you're shooting with, you are sacrificing your results. I'm not going to say that because that's not true. 55-35 macro M tube. I was playing with mine 4 weeks ago on my Z, just to sit there and play with it. Still delivers beautiful results. Now, here's the thing. Manual focus, manual exposure, manual tube. The results are gorgeous, but I'm jumping through a bunch of hoops to get to them. You put a Z105 macro on that body, you've got everything. Autofocus, exposure, reproduction ratio, boom, with gorgeous results. So what's the point? My point is real simple. The best lens ever is never coming. It's never going to be known. It's always going to be changing. It's always going to be the lens that takes that photograph that lights up your soul. We need to get past this, the best ever. Because let's be real, folks. As soon as someone says the best ever, it's pylon jumping, knocking it down, this entire ruckus to say why it's not. So what's the point of saying it is when it doesn't really matter? The best lens ever is a non-starter, non-part of our photography. I've seen some incredible gear with people out there shooting. And they come back with the crappiest photographs. It's not the gear's fault. I've seen some of the most incredibly sharp lenses and the images coming back totally destroyed by horrible digital darkroom habits. So it doesn't matter if we know what the best lens ever is. We don't need to sit there and spend time to figure it out. We don't need to sit there and have that debate. What we need to do is just go out and shoot. Because the lens on the camera that captures the photograph, that brings back your story, that's your best lens. No matter what I tell you, anybody else tells you, that's going to be the best lens. And we're all going to be different in deciding what the best lens ever is. And that's how it's supposed to be. That is the whole point of this whole thing. There is no one lens. As long as your heart is telling you that what you see in that viewfinder is the story you want to share with others, the lens that's delivering that to you is the best lens ever. And you can take that to the bank. And that's what's really important here. Don't spend time trying to figure it out. Don't sit there and read all those reviews. Seriously, it's not going to get you anywhere, except for frustrated. Maybe spend some money you don't need to. And maybe get involved in some silly web argument that doesn't mean dilly squat in the great scheme of things. Enjoy what you have, work for better, and in the end, you will have the best lens ever. Folks, you have a great week. Thanks for dropping by. And remember to make every click your story.